The definition of conviction is a firmly held belief. Leadership looks different for each person, but every leader has strong convictions that pave the way for how they guide their people. Whether you're an experienced leader, a current leader, a novice leader, or a soon-to-be leader, this podcast is a must for you. Through this show, you will hear leaders share their convictions, the struggles they face, and the challenges they have overcome by staying true to their convictions. Leadership can be hard and it can be lonely. I aim to connect you with leaders who have walked the journey and want to show others the way. This is Beau Vincent, and you're listening to The Conviction of a Leader. What is up, everybody? This is Beau Vincent. Welcome back to The Conviction of a Leader. I have a great friend, fellow agency owner, and CWC coach, Brooke Brolo. Welcome to the show.
Oh,
How are
thank you
you?
so much. Thanks for having me, Bo. It's been a long time coming, right?
I know, right? Just about 2 years, but we said we would do it,
Yep.
and we
Yep.
did. And I appreciate you not backing out again.
No,
I'm just, I'm
you're
kidding.
gonna, you're never
So,
gonna let me live it
Brooke,
down.
no, it's okay. And I know you had every reason to because you have a kiddo that's sick today. So I really do appreciate you jumping on and sticking to it because I know it's not easy, but I really appreciate it. Now, everybody listening is probably like, who is Brooke? Well, some of you may know her. But those that don't, I'm about to read her bio and introduce her so you know exactly who Brooke Brolo is. Brooke is an agency owner, just like I talked about. She opened in 2008, completely scratch, brand new insurance agency. She grew to over 14 million on the paper that our company writes. We're not going to say the company name right now, but the company writes, and then over 2 million of brokered business. Also, she has had several small acquisitions in 2012, in 2017, in her second scratch agency in 2019. Brooke, you've earned 24 awards all the way up to the top of the ladder, Inner Circle. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Currently, she's serving on the District Growth Council for her area, which I'm also on District Growth Council, which means you're probably on the Engagement Council too for all of the companies. So good job to you. You were also a previous regional advisory board member for the company. 2021, Arkansas Money and Politics Power Woman. I mean, I know you are definitely one of those. So congrats on that. 2023, top 40 under 40 achievers or achievers in 40s.
In
Sorry.
our 40s, yeah.
CWC coach. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, I think you're lying when you say you're in your 40s. So just want to make sure you
Oh,
know that.
thanks.
Married
Botox.
married 20 years to my brother Jason. I love your husband is such an awesome dude. His biceps are bigger than
I think
mine
you're gonna
and
say.
his pecs are bigger than mine. He's an awesome guy. I love Jason. Shout out to Jason. 20-year anniversary coming this July. You also have two boys, Briggs and Jackson. And I can't wait to talk a little bit about being a mother, also a business owner, working with your husband, some great things, but you're a huge baseball family. And I know that we've bonded around baseball, me, you, and Jason, and my kids and love baseball. I love baseball. It's obviously my favorite. I grew up on a lake, so I love that you love to go to the lake and enjoy water sports with your kids on the weekends and having fun whenever there is no baseball, which is not very
Right.
often, but when there is, it's fun to hit the lake. So you're a foodie, and I can't wait for you to set a reservation for the next time we're at a conference and you and Jason take me out to dinner. I can't wait.
Done. Done. Absolutely.
So welcome to the Conviction of a Leader, Brooke. I really appreciate you jumping on.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and you made me sound really good. So thanks a lot. So thank you.
You are good. And that's why you're on the Conviction of a Leader.
Oh,
So we want the best leaders to come on and talk about their journey, their business experience so that people can get to know you and your story, but also learn from your journey and what convictions you've held as a leader. So we'll start out with this. Okay. I want you to walk us from uh, 2008 when you got into insurance, what got you into insurance? And then from there, take us to today,
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
that's went.
So, and you may know this already, but insurance was
Yeah.
not in my wheelhouse. Like it was, yeah, like I said, I started scratch. It was out of
Yeah.
nowhere. My plan was to go to law school. I had graduated.
Wow.
I took the LSAT. Like that was the path I was on. That's what I wanted to do for years. Through college, I worked as a paralegal. But my stepdad, was one of my mentors, young adult, adolescence, like he
Yeah.
really taught me so many things, and I just really looked up to him. And he, right before Jason and I were married, he was diagnosed with cancer,
Oh, I
and it
did
was
not know
terminal.
this.
So I watched him battle for years, and then when he passed away, his my mom and him, he was a business owner. He had sold his agency. They moved to Texas or lower Texas to go to MD Anderson to, fight for his
Wow.
life. And while he was there, my aunt was like keeping the lights on, keeping the bills on, paying everything that came in. But his life insurance policy was missed. It was a term policy, and it lapsed. So
Ugh.
when he passed away, my mom had nothing but the home that she lived in that was paid off because they had sold the business, went through retirement savings, everything to keep him alive. And so she
Oh,
had to start over. And I remember like going, "Well, where's the life insurance? You have life insurance." And they're like, "Well, it didn't get paid. It was a term policy." The agent was actually a friend of theirs, um,
mm,
and never picked up the phone to say, "Make sure you get this paid." Like, make sure he knew the situation. And I remember I was just, like,
jeez.
on fire. I was on fire. I was like, "How could this happen? Like,
Mad.
this is
Yeah.
huge. This was life-changing money for my mom." She had to start over at
Oh,
52. And so,
so sad.
yeah, and one of my best friend's brothers was a State Farm agent, and he was like, "You should come to get into insurance." I was like, "No." He was like, "The passion that you have
I'm gonna
right
be a
now." I
lawyer.
was
I'm
like,
gonna
"I'm
be an
going to law
attorney.
school. I'm not an insurance agent. Like, what?" And he's like, "The passion that you have, the fire that you have right now, like, this could be the door for you." And I was like, I don't know. I had a
Yeah.
dream, and it was like, yes, like this is the path. And then I really
So cool.
felt God was like, this is the door I'm closing on David, and this is the door I'm opening for you because of this. And so I was like,
Wow.
okay. So I went and visited State Farm in Oklahoma. I interviewed with them, and I was like, okay, I think I want to do this. And they wanted me to work for an agent for 6 months, kinda, and this and that. And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna look at Allstate too." And my recruiter had a lot to do with it, and he was like, "We want you."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay." So, am I ditching law school and going into insurance and starting a business, and I don't even know what I'm doing? And I had $10,000 that David had left me, and I put that money into opening my agency, and
Wow.
here I am. That's what got me started.
Wow. So that's pretty traumatic, but also like very impactful. And I love when I speak to leaders that have some sort of conviction like this, right? That's a strongly held belief that you believe, wow, as an insurance agent, I should go above and beyond for my customers, especially those that I know that are friends going through something extremely tough. I shouldn't let them lose a policy,
Right,
right?
right.
Over something as simple as that. So, wow, that's pretty impactful. I actually have never heard specifically that story. Excuse me. But I appreciate you walking me through it. Tell me when your husband Jason came into the business.
He when it was I think it was 2017. So, when I
Uh-huh.
started, I was scratch. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a team to lead. It was just
Right.
me, I'm like, "I'm gonna figure this out." But I knew I wanted to scale and add more people.
Yeah.
So and I could do that with a good team. So I
Oh,
started,
yeah.
figuring out, I'm gonna hire people, I'm gonna have a good team around me. And then, we got to a level where my husband was in, he had done orthopedic medical sales forever, and he was just burnout. That industry is
Yeah.
tough, and he'd done it for
Mhm.
15 years. And I was like, what better person to come help me lead and be
Yeah.
on this team than my husband? And so 2017, I was like, "Are you ready to make the leap?" There was an agency opening in our town where we lived, and they weren't accepting inside buyers at the time. So I was like, "You're an outside buyer. We could get into this and be a, best both
Do it
worlds for us,
together.
right?" And so he came on board in 17. We bought a small book, and so
Wow.
that's how he got into the business.
Wow. I think that's a great pickup for you. So tell me about this. How do you manage household with kids, business, spouse works with you? How do you handle all that?
I drink a lot of wine.
Yeah. Wind down
Wind down.
with Brooke.
Um,
Uh,
it is a balance. It is something that I work on all of the time because I juggle a lot, right? But my husband is tremendous in helping me do that. He works in the agency too. So now we're both on Brolo Insurance Group, but we do two separate things. We have two separate skill
yeah.
sets, and it works amazing for us. So the things that I'm like, oh, I'm not real good at that. I'm the front person. I'd rather like, you know, have the visionary behind all the things, and he's like the
Right.
integrator and doing all the thing very routine, and I'm totally not. And so it
Yeah.
works really, really well for us. So,
It's cool. Cool. So, how has what has the freedom been like? I want the listeners to hear what's the freedom been like for you as a agency owner? Has it felt like you've had a lot of freedom, or have you learned over time to access the freedom that comes with being a business owner?
um, yeah, I think people think that leadership is, or being a business owner, like you get to do what you want when you want, like you're your own boss. And it couldn't be further from the truth
Yeah.
at some point, right? It's a lot better
Some points, yes.
today, but in the beginning, it wasn't. It was me. And you were the person. You are the janitor. You are the person from the end to the top, close,
Right.
start to close. And you just I totally just lost my train of thought where I was going with that. What was your question?
I talked about how do you handle it? Yeah. So, how do you handle the freedom?
Oh, the
How have
freedom.
you
See,
how have
that's
you
where I was
handled the
going with
freedom?
that.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
there
How have you
wasn't any
grown?
because I was doing all of the things. But now
Yeah.
the freedom comes from, my team, the team that I have put in place and that I pour
Mhm.
myself into. And I try
Oh, yeah.
to lead them and show them by example. And now I can have that freedom. If you're just bossing
Right.
people around, like, there's no
That's
freedom
all
in
you're doing.
that because
Mm-mm.
they're just doing, they're just your workhorse, and how much are they really going to feel conviction in doing that, right?
So
So,
true.
I really try to make it about like, I'm going to set the example. I'm never going to have you do something that I wouldn't do. And that's how you get people to trust you and to follow you and
Oh,
want
yeah.
to do things for you. And I make it about them. What do you want? What do you want to get out of life? What are your goals? Let's do this together. And that's where you find your
So
freedom by empowering other people. Because if you don't empower them,
so
like
good.
there is no freedom. You have to be
So
there to
true.
monitor. And who wants to do that?
Nobody wants to be the, monitor, the micromanager,
No.
the prison guard.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So, no, that's a joke, but so tell me about this, okay? This is called the conviction of a leader, and you hear me talk about convictions and strongly held beliefs, and you just said it more than once. I believe that most most great leaders have really deeply held beliefs called convictions, and I do believe that it is pivotal to the way that they lead their family, their people, their business. So I'm going to ask you, what are some of your biggest convictions that have guided you in this journey?
So, I've had a lot of crappy bosses. Okay. I've had a lot
Mm,
of crappy bosses in the past. And I knew
yeah,
that wherever I ended up, in insurance, that when I was on the other
yeah,
side of the table, the boss side of the table,
yes,
I wanted to be different,
yeah.
and that is what's driven me. That's been my conviction that I don't want to be that. I want to show people the potential because maybe they didn't have mentors. Like I had David, I have my husband, I have a great tribe of agents, and friends.
Oh, yeah.
But some people don't have that and they don't know that they even have that potential. And so that's what drives me is like when you show them the potential and they get a glimpse of it and go, maybe I can do
Yeah.
that. Maybe I can do that. It is amazing. So
Yeah.
can I give you an example?
Of course.
So, and this just happened earlier this week, and I was hoping something like this would come up so I could talk about it. So,
I
um,
love it.
Debbie, who's worked with me for 10 years, she leads my service team. She's amazing. And we had our service meeting on Tuesday, and she was like, okay, we're all on Zoom, and she's like, I've pulled calls, and we're going to listen to these calls with the customers, and we're going to rate each other. Like, we're going to give each other constructive feedback. And you could
Wow.
see the fear in there. They're like, oh gosh, I hope it's not me. I hope this isn't my call. Right. And she's like, these are my calls. I mean, there was no prouder moment for me to see her
Wow.
lead her team. And instead of putting them on the spot, she put
Mhm.
herself on the spot and opened herself up to that criticism and that feedback. And I just ran in there and hugged her and was like, this is why I do what I do. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And just to see her flourish and like lead her team and not put them on the spot, put herself there, it was really something. So I was just really passionate
Wow.
about that.
Wow. What a great approach to use yourself as an example. And I have this little I think I've told you before, but I write down a lot of the one-liners that I've
You've got some good ones. You've
created,
got
that I
some good ones.
say. Yeah. Well, one of them is, well, first off, your stage life can't be bigger than your real life. So that just means from anything. As a leader, when you speak to your team, you get on a podcast, you go on a stage, you cannot fake it. I hate that. I have this deep conviction that I don't want to speak about anything that I don't own and I don't do, because if I tell Brooke that, oh, my agency does this, and somehow she finds her way speaking to my staff or in my agency, I would never want to be found a fraud. It's just, I've had leaders, like you just talked about, bad leaders in the past that were
Hmm.
so fraudulent in what they did and how they spoke. And I used to say, what if you could only teach what you actually, or taught what you actually did? So, like, that's it. So, you couldn't teach this really great sales process that you didn't actually do. You actually could teach, like, hey, this is Beau. Let me get your information and we'll call you back for a quote. No, like, that's not how you, but what if you could only teach it the way that you or like taught it, like did it? So I'm important. I think it's important for us to just lead by example as leaders. And it sounds like you've set a really good example in your agency, because there's nothing better. And I don't want to refer to somebody that works for us as a child, but in a sense, like when I see my kids grow and I know I taught them something that they're doing on their own, I'm so proud.
Right.
And then when a staff is doing something to where you're like, oh my gosh, they just do that now. Like, I don't even know if I taught them, but I'm
Right.
so proud of them to see their growth and their maturity, especially in leading others, because that's the most important, I think, role and calling on my life. And I think you have found that is yours too, is just leading others. Because my deepest conviction is that I think I'm called, and through this podcast and through coaching, consulting, leading a business, leading a family, is I believe that I was called to help others become greater leaders than I in less time. Because I had a leader at one time that wanted me to hit every single step, every failure that he did. And it was like prolonging. If it took him 18 years, he wanted to take me 18 years one day, which was just not fair.
Right.
Didn't seem fair, did it?
Well, no,
So,
and one thing for me, like it doesn't always been this way. Like I've always tried to be
yeah,
really good to my people, lead by example,
yeah,
effort and attitude are everything for me. But I was still like, it's my business. I grew up from scratch, so I was still very hold on to the reins, like go lead,
yeah,
you know. But at one point, and I think you know this too, and I don't really talk about it very often. I think I've only talked about it one other time publicly because it's it's very emotional. But
yeah,
right after Jason came on board and about a year and a half in, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And
yeah.
so my world was like turned upside down, right? We had just opened his agency. I had my agency. And then I opened that scratch in
So
2019, a week
crazy. Yeah.
before we found out that he had the brain tumor. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I had
Mm,
to, I mentally checked out of my business, right? So this is where like the rubber meant, have I been a good leader? Have I really done the things that I've
Oh,
set
yeah.
out to do? Because I'm about to walk away from my business, and is it going to set on fire? Are they going to make it without me? Like
Mm.
you have to be okay with like they're going to fail or fly. You have to be okay with that either way. And I just prayed that I had really tried to do that, but it was really hard for me to give it up. Previously, I was still kind of,
Yeah.
but there was no like, I was like, okay, it's yours. Run it like it's yours. And man, they did. And that empowerment, and that's when I really saw,
Yeah.
like, I could take this next level with them,
Mm.
and I can actually turn, when I get back into the business, when things and he's great now and everything's fine, but it was a long
Yeah.
journey, and I was
Mm.
completely checked out, and he had to learn everything all over again when it came to, and he remembered
Man.
nothing from the last 2 years. Um, but empowering them and giving them the reins, basically for kind of throwing them at him, like, "Figure you got it, you got it, you got it. I trust you."
What a
And
what a
and
testament.
it
Yeah.
was and it was great, and it really showed me, like, I can do this, and they can do
Right.
this, and this,
Mm.
and I can lead other people, and I don't have to,
Yeah.
and I can step back and not have that anxiety, because you know what?
Mm.
If it doesn't work out, we're gonna get back up, and we're gonna
Yeah.
fix it together, and so it's
So
been really good.
what a testament to you, but a testament to your team stepping up during one of the toughest times in your life. And I've said this a lot, Brooke, is that you're a mother first, you're a spouse first, you're an employee second, or employer second. And I make this very clear to my staff that, hey, I will never ask you to choose between your kids and work, or your spouse, or your family. But I want you to think about maybe some advice that you could give to somebody who's dealing with a lot inside of their life. How do they learn? Because not everybody has the ability to leave their team up to it, right? Let's be honest. You're blessed, and I'm thankful that you had that opportunity. But what if you are the manager and your only source of income is that job, clocking in and clocking out? What advice do you have for people that are dealing with a lot inside of their life? How do they lead through trauma? How can they go to work and still be true to who they are, but be a great leader? Have you found any secrets or advice that you can
Well,
share?
being that person, um,
Hmm.
and I trusted my team, but I also leaned on other people,
Yeah.
and that was huge for me. My mentors, like you need that. The coach needs a coach.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need a mentor,
Yep.
and I leaned on them, for advice, and they would help my team as well. So when you're sometimes, when you can't be there, who are the people that you surround yourself with? Those
Yeah.
people can help lift you and help you
So
through those
true.
things. So to me, it's finding a mentor. It's someone that can help you, and guide you and your team, and be there when you need that advice, when you need that
Mm.
encouragement. That's
Hmm.
the biggest piece of advice. Like find those people that are going to support you and lift you up, and clap for you when you're winning, and pick you up when you are on your face. So
Yeah. I, I have a saying: surround yourself with people who celebrate you, not tolerate you. And within our business, we have this unique opportunity as employers and business owners to surround ourselves. And I'm not surrounding myself with people that fakely celebrate me, but I lead by example. Just like my mantra that used to just be a catchy phrase that I said in the agency was, hey guys, we love insurance, we love people more. So how do we show them that? It actually turned into, from a catchy saying that was in my first business plan, to a mantra, to a tagline, to a filter of everything we do. So I use it as an opportunity for me to say, okay, I'm going to change this process, but how does it show that we love insurance, we love people more? But through that, then I say, work for a company that celebrates you, not tolerates you. So I go out of my way to make sure that each person is extremely, um, or it finds what I help them find the fulfillment they're looking for within their job. And sometimes I am successful, sometimes I'm not, and sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's their fault. But ultimately, I think it's important for people to work for a company that celebrates them, not tolerates
Yeah.
them. But as a leader, we got to know, like, and trust them. And sometimes you don't ever get to the trust phase because you don't like them. And but it does sound like your team knew you, liked you, trusted you, and they ran through walls for you when you needed it most. But without you maybe realizing, years and weeks and days prior, great leaders make people feel safe and respected and trusted, and you took care of them. And when it came down to it, they returned that favor back to you. So
Well,
it's still a testament to your leadership.
well, I try. I mean, my thing is,
Yeah.
and I stole this from my husband, treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And literally, I just try to live by that. How would I want to
Yeah.
be treated if I'm in this situation, how would I want to be
Yeah.
treated? And I try to project that. So my husband always, every single night after prayer to my kids, he says, always try hard, have fun, treat people how you want to be treated, take care of your brother. Well, I was like,
Gosh, I love
"Stolen,
that.
stolen."
I
Now
love
it's,
that.
now I just changed it to help each other. So always try hard,
Mm,
have fun, treat people how you wanna be treated, and take care of each other. You take care of each
mm.
other, I'm a true believer in what comes around goes around. So
Me too.
that's just
Man,
yeah.
I love that. I knew I loved him and you, but you guys are awesome. I might have to write that down after the podcast, and maybe won't be something I took from you. Might be just something that I start to do too, which this is what this is about. Because even though I feel like I have, you know, my leadership has been 18 years long, and I do feel at times like I think sometimes we screw up when we think we have everything figured out. And I don't. But I think after 18 years, I start to think that. But this podcast helps me remember that I'm still just a student, and I still just want to grow, because the more that I grow, the better I become for my family, my wife, and my business, and those that work with me. Because that's what it's really about. Is at the end of my life and legacy, I hope that, just like it sounds like you're starting to, or not starting, you lay out, is that at the end of my life, I hope that people say, I was better because of Beau. I was better because of my dad. I was better because of David. That's the kind of legacy that I want to leave. So I think that the responsibility we take as leaders, when I talk to a leader like you, that takes it to heart and really wants to put people first, like that's huge. So I feel so blessed and loved, and I hope that everyone gets to feel like this at some point in their life. So I didn't always feel like that, so part of my journey of leadership is helping other people feel that way. So we could cry right now, I know we both could, but
Well, I mean,
you have something to
leadership
add. Yeah.
is, it can be really lonely. It can. And
Oh yeah.
that's when all the imposter syndrome and everything, creeps in. And so when I feel like the way that, I try to be a forever student so I can learn as much as I can so I feel
Yeah.
strong and confident, and then when I empower others, and then it's not just me with the decision making, and there's a team of people, that's where the work really, and that's where the win happens for sure. Because, you
Mm,
know, for me, there's room for everyone at the table. Like, I'm not selfish about it. I share everything I can. Like, why
right.
why would you be there? And so I just really want to empower people and invite everyone to the table, because I know it's scary. I've been there. I was there for a
Mm,
long time. And, it's important to me that, I leave an impact of, Brooke is a good person, and she tried hard to, like, help others, and just be known as that person that, that really cares, and that wants to, help you get to where you want to go. Like,
mm.
so
Yeah, another one of my one-liners. I stopped fighting for a seat at their table, and I decided to build my own table and invite the best people to come sit with me so that I could provide for them.
I love that.
So I love, like, the opportunity to provide and give somebody a seat that deserves a seat, that I fought year after year, day after day to have the seat. And then if I screwed up for some leaders I worked for, the seat could be removed after one mishap. So you mentioned imposter syndrome, and I think
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's huge in this world because of YouTube, because of social media. We want to be imposters of other people. And Justin Harkleroad, if you know him, he's also
sure,
a fellow
yeah.
coach of ours. He made a comment last season about how it's an epidemic that people are such imposters of other people that the epidemic is they don't actually know who they are and what they were created to do because they're always an imposter of somebody else. So, how have you learned to balance your life in those times like you mentioned? So, it we all struggle with it. So, how have you learned to deal with it and grow from it?
Um, 16 years in, and I still deal
Mhm.
with it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because sometimes you think it's just you, right? You think it's just
Yeah.
you. I was
No.
at the in the Chicago Midwest Forum, and an agent friend of mine, she had posted, you know, I'm having imposter syndrome. I'm looking around at all these agents that have done so much more than me, that are
Yeah.
like new, and I'm feeling like, and I'm like, me too. Like, you feel that way too? Like, and to know that you're not alone, like you just said, like, we
Yeah.
all experience it. It doesn't matter, I
Mm.
mean, I can be one of the most confident people in the world, and the next minute be, like, questioning everything I do. Am I qualified to lead? Am I qualified to coach? These people trust me with their business. My team trusts me to, like, help them, get better and scale, and, like, and I'm providing for their families, and what
Mhm.
the decisions that I make,
Relying on you. Yeah.
and so, I just really try to educate myself and surround myself with, people, like you said, like, you don't want to fight for a seat at the table, but I do want to be in the room with all of those people that
Mhm.
are doing things that I want to do, and I
Yeah.
learn from them and get better. Um,
So
and
true.
that's what I try to do to get past that. And then
Mhm.
just, I have strong conviction, and I know that I work hard, and I know that I educate myself, and I don't
Yeah,
try to
you do.
fake it. And if I don't know it, I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I don't know that. I need to
Yeah, I'm not
I'm
sure.
not your person on that. I'm not your person on that. But let's find that person. Let's find that person, and
Let's
let me
find it.
get better at that, because I sure don't want to project to be somebody that I'm not, because how does
Yeah.
anybody win from that, you know?
I I love that you said that because it reminds me of my one-on-one like consulting, coaching, or even speaking is that I just do not feel comfortable speaking on something I don't know and don't do. It doesn't mean that I won't figure it out and find a way because I have this sick passion for yes. I mean, ask my mom,
Same.
ask
I'm
my
a yes
wife, like
man.
sick. Well, okay, well, I want yes from
Oh, okay.
everything is
Well,
the other
same.
thing. So like a no, yeah, I want somebody to tell I want everybody to tell me yes. So it's a sick, weird passion that I've had to learn like how to channel it correctly, right? So when somebody tells me no, okay, it's no, but why is it a no? When is it going to be yes? How do we figure it out? So I think that I've had to learn to channel that because, yes, on the other side too, being a yes man in my early years, and I will say early years meaning like teenage years into my early 20s, I wanted to be the man that everybody could count on. Everybody, wife,
It's a
mom,
lot of pressure, Bo.
father-in-law, my I wanted to be the C I was at finish line, right? And I moved up relatively fast. When I became a district manager, I was, to my knowledge, the youngest one in the company, 27 years
Wow.
old, was in charge of $50 million, traveling all over. The truth is that all I wanted to do was to make my boss proud of me and say yes to things so that he would say he was proud of me, which was really sad when I realized it was that he never gave me the love that I thought I wanted, but it also wasn't his responsibility to always give me that. And I think I realized at one point, I don't know where I heard it, Brooke, but we need to get used to telling ourselves that we're proud of ourselves because no one else will ever tell you, not even your husband, not even my wife, will say, I'm proud of you enough of what you've accomplished because deep down inside, even if they do, you're the only one that validates that.
And that's a tough
So I
thing.
could say, Brooke, I'm so proud of you, but you could be like, why? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not proud of myself. So, like, you have to decide and validate that thought, even. Go
No,
ahead.
I
What were you
just think
saying?
I think it's a tough thing to do, like
Yeah.
self-validation. And I feel like we owe ourselves more, more of that, like show ourselves some
Grace.
grace. I'm my
Hmm.
toughest critic. I will lay in
Yeah.
bed and think at night, like, what could I've not done better, and so I don't show myself that grace that I should. But I think we
Yeah.
should all could all use a little more of that. And you do have to
Of
find that
course.
you know, that inner confidence and peace, and be like, I did do a good job. Damn, I
Yes.
did a good job. Yeah, I'm gonna show myself
We're
that love.
afraid, people like you and I, because we are similar in some ways, and I think we are. You can correct me, and honestly, even on the podcast, you can. But I think that we want to be humble. We do. And sometimes when we tell ourselves we're proud, there's a thought of like pride slips in
Right,
or humbleness. Like I can't be humble if I'm telling myself I'm proud of myself because I don't want to be a prideful person. But it's okay to say, look what you've accomplished. Look what God has blessed you with. And I think it's important to look in the mirror. I do this thing quite often, Brooke, where when I first got promoted at Finish Line, they gave me keys to my own store and I got to go to the store and I walked in, threw up the gate in a mall, by the way. I was 21 and a half, almost 22. Threw up the gate, looked around. It was one of the oldest number store 16. At the time, they had 700 stores. 16th built, still old. Walked in, looked around. Drop ceiling. It was ugly. It had mirrored walls. And if you go into the mall now, there's no mirrored walls and drop ceilings. And,
right.
so I walk in and I'm just like, I have these keys in my hands and I'm like, I'm responsible for a multi-million-dollar operation. Like, look where I've come from. Look at the favor and blessing that God has shown to me and the responsibility to continue to grow. And then I look back to that time. And then when I got promoted to district manager, and I'm like, they trust me to work from home. They give me a laptop, a car, and I drive around and I can manage people remotely. And then I own a business, another level. And I walk into my business quite often and I say, I can't believe this is
My
I
life,
own
yeah.
this. Like, and your name's on the door, right? When you walk in, Brooke, and you're just like, whoa, like this is, this is who we are. Like, but I think it's often, and it's also, it's important to often to be, what do I say? Don't be complacent, but be content. It's okay to be content with what God has blessed us with, but don't become complacent because I believe the complacent people, just like thinking they have it all figured out, they go backwards.
Right.
You don't
There's no
typically go
growth.
forward.
If you're on
No,
autopilot and you're complacent, there's no growth.
no growth. So I think it's important for us to continue pushing ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And that's what all this is always about with my leadership stuff is always about. I want to become the best version of me. I want to help you become the best version of you. So it is a journey filled with learning, often challenges faced, right? I mean, how often do you face challenges? Every day. Could you share something that's been particularly hard, like a hard lesson you've learned for our listeners to hear? And hopefully you could share something that you have learned from that hardship.
Oh, goodness. I've had plenty. I've had plenty of
Mhm.
hardships.
And you already talked about Jason,
Yeah,
which was a
and
huge
that
one
one
for
is
you.
sticks out the most to me, but, I mean, I've had plenty of failed business plans, okay? I've had
Yeah.
plenty of people that I hired the wrong people and poured into
Yeah.
people that, um, that that I wanted it more than them, and I think that that's
Mm.
a big thing, that comes to mind, like,
So true.
you cannot want it more than them. Like, you can pour into them and you can, try to show them the potential, and that is so hard for me when I see it, but they won't tap into it for whatever reason, and I'm like, "Is it me? Am I just not doing a good job? Or is it them that they just don't want to?" Because some people are not wired to wanna do more. Some people are just wired to be, mediocre, or just wired to, like, "I just wanna do this, and I'm okay with that, and
Support
that's
people
fine,"
and yeah.
that you have your own journey, your own life, but I'm like, "There's so much you could do if you could just see," and then it's hard for me to be like, "Was it a failure on my part?" But then I've learned to be like, "No, some people are just wired like that." But to
Mhm.
see, the fruits of your labor when someone does see it and you can tell, you can see the switch, like, that's where I'm like, "Okay, it's worth it." Continue to push and to drive and to
Yeah.
help them because not all will, but some will, and it will be amazing, and you can change their life, and that is the biggest
Mm.
thing. If I didn't have people pushing me because like I said, I'm hard on myself, but I had mentors and my mom was a huge one of those, and she's like, "If you want it, you gotta go after it. You
Mm.
gotta do it yourself because nobody's gonna do it for you."
Yeah.
And I remember and I
Yeah.
ran, but then I was like, I do wanna try to be that person for, other people. and if I can make an impact on them and they can see the door open for them, like that means everything. So,
Hmm. I love that, and it is true. I had a previous leader teach me, Bo, you're not a miracle worker and you're not superhuman. You can't change people's will. So if I meet somebody, I still to this day I love recruiting and training, specifically leaders. That's why I'm so attracted to leaders. I just love leading leaders and training leaders. There's a different level.
yes,
It takes a different level of from me, but also and challenge from me, but also they have a different skill set deep down, or they want to grow a different skill set, different drive than most. Most entrepreneurs I've interviewed and I've spoke to, I've been so blessed, Brooke. Like you and I, we know so many people, so many great people in and outside of the insurance agency. And I've had such a blessing on this podcast to bring almost everybody I bring in the podcast is a friend. And that's such a like crazy thing to think, is that I have these great friends like you. And yesterday was Andrew Filer, David Williams, Corey Rickman.
amazing.
Those are friends,
Yeah.
cell phones, call up, hang out, friends that I can lean on, so it's just really cool because I think when you learn that leadership is not a magic wand that we can just wave at somebody and be like, this person's going to be great. I get excited about people's natural ability to just communicate, and I want to grow it into leader or salesman, but sometimes they don't want
Right.
that. And that was the hardest thing, honestly, in my career to learn. And so many times I was let down because you want to know something. Here's a secret: people can't read your mind, but they can read a piece of paper. So I started to learn that, wow, I left some things unsaid, and I need to over communicate when I'm leading people. And sometimes I need to send out a summary of those notes, and I might want to keep
A
those notes
recap.
to 3 points, right? A recap. So I started to learn that the failures came from things that I didn't talk about when I first met. Like, say I was recruiting Brooke, and I don't tell you I want you to be this great leader someday, but I am investing in you and training you to be a great leader, and it's never been communicated and you never really wanted it, but I just think you do because I've imposed that on you because of your great skill set and how people just naturally follow you. And that's where I've learned. And
And some people just who you like come out of nowhere and
mm,
they become that leader on their like they show those qualities. They don't
yes,
think that they're a leader, but I'm like, "You are. Look what you're
yes,
doing."
yes.
I have, my operations manager, she it's like if you're running a race and like she's like the long shot that came up and all of a sudden
Yeah,
was like, "Where'd you come from?" And she just started. I noticed she was doing all of these things and like, "Oh, I fixed that problem," and I was like, "Oh, I had to call this person. Already did that," and I was like, "Okay." So it was not even coming to me, and I was like, "You are a born leader. You just might not know it. And if you know it, great. But I'm going to like, let's talk about putting you in this position." And she was like, "Oh, no, I'd never thought about that." And I'm like, "But you're already doing it. You're already doing it." And then she embraced it and she's been amazing. And I love watching, like it was just in her naturally,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and she did it every day and didn't even know it. And it was really cool to be like, "You're a leader, right?" And I was like, "And I
And
wanna
you're
help
like,
you get better, and we
what
can
do you
help
mean?
each other together." S
Yeah. So I love that you said that, because I actually have this belief that I don't know if people are actually born a leader. I can't really speak on the psychology of that, but I do think they're developed as leaders, and you can start to tell in childhood. I think I mean, you have 2 kids, right? I have 3 kids, 3 sons. I'll tell you this: my middle son is just geared slightly different to lead, and other people tend to follow.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, at times, because he's young and immature, he's 6th grade, right? You know that.
Yes.
So I had a conference with one of his teachers 2 years ago, and my wife would not sit on the Zoom because she knew I was not happy. And anger, anger if harnessed correctly and channeled correctly, can turn into something worthwhile. So anger, just anger, is not useful. But anger, when you channel it, can be harnessed for success if correctly used. So I had anger towards this teacher because of the way that she was treating my middle son. And she said to me, "Your son is impulsive. Your son is this. Your son is that. And he is a class clown, and everybody follows his lead."
Sounds like my Jax.
And you know what I said to her? This is what I said. I said, "You know what?" And I actually teared up. My wife was in the other room. And I said, "You know, my whole life, everybody told me my weaknesses, never told me my strengths, always was quick to point out my weaknesses until one day somebody said, 'Oh my God, you're so good at this.' And guess what? It was my weakness that was actually my strength." So, because I was impulsive and wanted to act on my thoughts faster than anybody around me, was actually one of the reasons why I'm a successful entrepreneur, is because I have a thought and I want to act on it. Where other people take 4 years to make a plan, I said, when I decided I wanted to own an insurance agency, it was literally in spring. And by October, I was an agent. I left the job that was a dream job. I don't say this to be prideful, we had the biggest house in our neighborhood. All of my friends, pastors said, "Why are you leaving what our dream is? You're living our dream. You have the perfect life. Why are you leaving that to go buy a business when you have everything? What are you trying to achieve?" And I actually had this dream because you talked about dreams earlier. I had this dream, and in the dream, I was staring at a picture on the wall. And I looked at this painting, and I've never said this on my podcast. I looked at this painting, and there was two people behind me, and they said, "This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen, beautiful painting I've ever seen." And I said, "No, it's not." In the dream. And you know how when paintings and paper gets wet or gets old, it starts to curl in the corner a little bit? Well, the corner of the picture was peeling, and they obviously couldn't see it because I'm a little bit of OCD. And I see this corner of the picture, and I'm like, "It's peeling in the corner. What do you mean it's perfect?" In my dream. So I reach up, and they're like, "It's perfect." And I pull this, part of the picture, and it pulls off. And behind it was such a bright light that it blinded me and them. And I said, "That's perfect." So what's behind what you think is perfect is actually my perfect life, which is my calling or my fulfillment in life, is to go be a business owner. And what's weird is that a couple weeks later, I met with a pastor friend and a couple friends, and I told them, "Hey guys, I'm moving from Toledo back to closer to where I'm from, to buy a business." And that's when they told me, "Why would you leave your life? It's perfect." And it literally reminded me of my dream.
Wow.
And the two people I met with must have been from the dream, because they said exactly what the dream said. And I said, "I do feel like I've been blessed and I have a really great life, but actually behind what you think is perfect is actually my calling in life, and I will find so much fulfillment from that." So I tell you all that because as a kid and in high school, in bosses telling me I was so impulsive, so I told this teacher, my son Connor, I said, "He's a leader and you've yet to recognize it." I said, "My son has decided, because you've offended him and made him emotional by treating him like he's not a human, because sometimes teachers treat kids amazing. Sometimes teachers treat kids like they're not humans. They yell at them. Brooke, if you worked for me and you walked in my office and I said, 'You shut your mouth, you go sit down, and the next time you do it, you're going in the hallway,' and I embarrass you in front of everybody, right? So
Oh,
would I lose your respect?"
100%.
I said, "Not only does my son not respect you, he doesn't like you now
Right.
because of you." I said, "So you have a choice to decide if you want my son to follow you as a leader or lead people away from you." And he's decided that he's a leader and he's leading people away from you. So until you earn his respect, which is called critical mass, because kids follow him, the class won't follow you. So get him to follow you and his friends will follow you.
Wow.
So get him to stick up for you, give him. And I was so mad, but that's what I said. And it was so profound and impactful because it was my life I was speaking about. And my son is not me, and he's not a carbon copy of me. And I don't want to put that on him, but he has some things that are remind me of me. And I don't want to allow somebody to hurt what could be his strengths and tell him it's his weakness. So I made it very clear, and I've told him, like, you're a leader whether you want to be or not. You didn't decide it, you didn't choose it, but every time you do something, people follow you. So I would tell you, this is the advice for Jax, is that you start to tell him that, hey, actually, what has been your weakness, and maybe I've told you it was your weakness or your teachers, we need to start to learn how to harness that because it's actually your strength. When harnessed correctly and your passion in the right direction, you're going to be something phenomenal. And I always believe way before anybody else did, and I'm here today because of that. So,
Don't sit here and
but it
make
all
me
started
cry,
up
Beau.
here.
Don't make me cry. I'm like,
Well,
I'm
you
not
made me
tearing up. I'm
cry.
not tearing up. But it is
It's okay.
you sitting here having you, talk about your son, and it reminds me of Jack so much
Yeah.
because he's the same way. He's the same way, and I've had to learn even because as a parent, you have a strong-willed child. It's a lot. I get it. And so for a teacher, but I tell him because he says I get in trouble all the time. I get in trouble all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, honey, and I heard this somewhere, and I can't, and I explained it to him, and it's like the light went on. I'm like, because he's very ADHD. I'm very ADHD. You saw earlier, I was like, wait, what am I talking about? Like, I do that in my
Yeah.
life because my mind is just going,
It's okay.
at all 90 miles an hour.
Million miles an
And
hour.
I told him, I said, you have a like racehorse of a brain. You have a with bicycle brakes,
Ferrari. Yeah.
and so to have you stop, it's harder for you. But so instead of
For
no,
me
no,
too.
no, you can't do that. That's wrong. And he hears that. We really try hard to, like you said, deflect and instead of saying no, like, hey, let's do this instead, and have him understand, like, right now is not a good time to be running around, and here's why.
Yes.
Listen to your teacher and learn it's tough though. It is tough as a parent. But I think that's
It's
amazing
very tough.
that story that you told the teacher in that conversation. Wow. I mean, what did she say? Like, now I have to know what she said.
I left her speechless, right? So it was almost like, okay, like, but this is what I told her. I said, I did follow it up with this, and I said, if I spoke to my team the same way you speak to my son, none of them would work for
I
me.
quit.
None of them. The difference is my son is locked inside of your school and in your classroom. My employees are not.
Right.
I said, so if your principal spoke to you the way that you speak to my son, you wouldn't work here.
Yeah.
I said, so I would just ask you to think. And by the way, I had no more problems the rest of the year. Either A, he had no more problems, or B, she never brought him to me again. Because at the end of the day, your perspective will determine, where you end. So I'm hoping that I helped shape a little bit of a perspective. And you know what the hardest thing in life to do sometimes is to tell somebody the truth. And she needed to hear the truth. The truth is, my son, and I told her this, is not perfect. He is impulsive. He does need to get better at things. And I will take
Right.
responsibility as his father because he should never speak back to you. Shouldn't do these things in the middle of class. But I will tell you this, the way that you respond is determined the way that he responds back to you now. So please, I can't, when I don't disrespect and yell and beat the piss out of my son, but then want him to follow me.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Right.
Okay. So I told her, I said, well, I didn't tell her this, but this is a thought I had afterwards. And I actually wrote it down because I talk about it now. So the most controlling leaders tend to be the most fearful leaders. Not always, but they tend to be. So the most micromanaging teachers and the most micromanaging bosses, because they're bosses now, is because there's a fear of things unraveling, a fear of everybody doing their own thing, a fear of the class going crazy, the business going crazy, people doing their own way, no longer following me. There's a fear deep down inside that we have to deal with and overcome. Because when we can overcome with our own fear that other people are going to take advantage of us and not follow our lead, we tend to become better leaders. And I used to say, and I still say, Brooke, choose to do something out of love, not fear. Do you love your people and that's why you want to address them? Or are you fearful that if you don't address them, they'll ruin your company? Which reason? So if you go from the love side, I've never failed going from the love side. And if I fail on this earth, at least I won't fail when I meet my maker. So in that side. So I want to be from the side of love. So when I say something, I do have to slow down because I'm Jackson, I am Connor, and I have to say, use your damn brain and filter this, you fool, before you embarrass yourself. But also, I have noticed this: people love to be around people that can act on and say things truthfully because they want it. People don't like who wants to be around the quiet liar? Not me. I don't trust them. I mean, so, but then on the other side, I also don't want the unpredictable fool around me who's going to embarrass me, speak his mind, and say things that are just outlandish. So there is a median, but ultimately, I want everybody to hear this today, that I don't care what the world has told you. You could be a better version of yourself. You're not perfect the way you are today. Okay. So Jackson's not perfect. Connor's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But if we start to think we are, and that I was made this way, so I shouldn't improve. I was made to be, impulsive or overweight or whatever, and I'm just going to deal with it. This is who I am. That doesn't help you become the best version of yourself. And I think deep down, we know who we are, and we need to allow ourselves to go be that person or who we want to be. And it's not who I am today. Thankfully, because of the thoughts and the path and dreams that God gave me, I've been able to come closer to the man that I was created to be versus where I was a decade ago. So, if you get better, you do get bigger, Brooke.
Well,
Your business gets bigger.
and the older I've gotten, because I used to care a lot what people thought about me, you know?
So hard to let go.
It is.
So hard.
But then the older I've gotten, I'm like, I am who I am, and
Yes.
I genuinely try to be a good person. Is
Yeah.
everyone gonna like what I do? Am I always gonna make the right decisions? Am I gonna make mistakes? Yes. But I'm not for everyone and everyone is not for me. And that is
Mm-mm.
okay.
Mm-mm.
That is okay. And
Yes.
I try to live my life by, okay, and the people that I surround myself, are they bringing me joy or are they stealing my joy? You know?
Yep.
And that goes for my family, family members too. Family friend
Hmm.
that's hard. Friends you can pick, you can pick your friends. I'm like, and it's okay to outgrow people, and I struggled with that. Struggled
Mm.
with that because I was like, "Why do I feel less than or they're making fun of or some making fun of the things that I'm doing to grow? Well, should I
Mm.
really surround myself around this person? Okay, are you bringing me joy or stealing my joy?" But the older I've gotten, the less that I care. The less that I
Yeah.
care. I wanna be a good
Yeah.
person, and I'm going to help you. If you wanna be helped, we can learn together, we can grow together, but and if you don't wanna be
So
there,
true.
you don't have to be here. You don't have to be here.
I I love that you said that because it reminded me of something. I don't want to be a chameleon. I don't want to be a chameleon. And at times I was to people please.
Mm,
But I learned longer on that I just need to be Beau. And if they don't like me, that's okay. I just need to be who Beau wants to be, who Beau is. Because do I really want to have to lie to change who I am to be around people I don't really want to be around, anyways?
right.
So I
It's
started to say,
exhausting.
and
It's
it
exhausting.
is,
Like, why would
it's
I'm just like, God, it's so freeing that I'm like,
mm,
if you like me, great.
so
If you
freeing.
don't, that's okay too. I'm not for everyone, you know? It's
It's true.
okay.
That is that was probably one of the biggest lessons in my life that I learned is that it's okay to be me. It's okay to allow myself to or encourage myself to even be like I want to be the best version of me, but I don't want to change to be somebody
Right.
else in that in where I'm changing. What I was saying is that everybody was created uniquely and differently to be who they are, but just because of who you are today doesn't mean you can't be a better version of yourself. Okay. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to love yourself today. I learned to love who I am in order to love other people more. The reason I can go around and say we love insurance, we love people more is because I've learned to love myself. And I didn't always love or like everything about me. My nose is too big. My voice is weird sometimes.
You have an
My
amazing voice.
hairline's
What are you talking
getting
about? You
shooting
have a voice
back.
that's for a podcast, built for a podcast.
It's in a face for
Yeah,
podcast. No,
whatever.
radio. I mean, but but yeah, I think it's funny because I think this podcast is really about a journey, and I say it's a journey of leadership, but sometimes it's a journey about finding yourself and helping others find themselves. Because the greatest leaders I've ever met, just help other people find themselves. Not always find leadership, just help somebody find themselves today. So if you're listening in this podcast, I encourage you to find yourself, and when you find yourself, help other people find themselves. it's so freeing and rewarding to see somebody come into who they are. Like you said, you learned that somebody else was going to be a leader before they really knew it, and you showed them that. That's freeing for them, and it's rewarding for you. You found fulfillment in that because you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're going to be a leader. You're so good. And you tell them, and they're like, I am.
Mhm.
I'm going to be a leader. How do you know this? And it's like, well, you already are. And it's so rewarding to help other people find that fulfillment in their own life. And I think that's the greatest part about being a leader when I really deep down think about it. And ultimately, I don't want my kids to be happy. That sounds funny to say. I hope they find happiness, but that's not my number one job. I actually think it's more important that I help them find who they are in life. Because if I help them find happiness, that's not about internal, that's
Right.
external. So if I help them find out who they are, who they were created by and for, and what they were created to do, there's something much more freeing there than there is seeking happiness through really good food and wine and travel and roller coasters. Is that good? Yes. But if that's where you find yourself, I think you need to look inside first. Then all those things that you travel and find will fulfill you. Because I had somebody ask me this, Brooke, Beau, how do you find so much fulfillment selling insurance? And I was like, I don't. I like it, but I don't. And I said, and they started to blame. I was consulting an agency, and I did some role playing with the team, and I do that quite a bit for sales. Well, these two ladies stayed on, and they asked me, why do you always feel so happy? Where do you find fulfillment? How do you find fulfillment in this job? And I said, I don't find full fulfillment. That's the lie, is that you think I do. I said, let me tell you something else too. I don't find full fulfillment in my kids. I don't find it in my wife. If I literally, there's no possible way for me to be fully fulfilled in my wife only, my kids only, my business only, and what I do. I found this fulfillment when it all comes together in the way that God created me. And if we can't find that, you're always going to be seeking fulfillment in something that can't actually fill you. So it's important as a leader to go out of our way to help other people find things in our life and revelations we've found to help them find who they are, which is the hardest thing in our entire life to do, is going to be to find out who we are. And Brooke, the reason I think you're so effective is because you found what you were created to do. And that's why you're such a great friend and wife and mother and business owners, because you found who you were. And it's so freeing. And I'm so thankful to know you because people like you help me realize these great things that have happened in my life and in my journey. So thank you.
Uh,
So
well, thank you, Bo. I mean, I truly you are an inspiration, and I the first time that I met you, you were standing, and I don't know if you know this or not. Have we had this conversation about the first time? I hadn't
I
met
don't
you.
know.
You were announced at being a new coach for CWC. I
Oh
didn't know
yeah.
who you were.
Yes.
We were at the after party, and you were standing on. I was headed to the restroom, and there was a ledge that overlooked everything, and
I do remember
you were
that.
standing there alone, and you were looking
Mhm.
out, and I saw you, and you were looking in my mind, you were going, "I I've accomplished something," and I'm looking down and, like, this is a great moment, and I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what you were thinking or not, but and
I
I was like, "He's having an amazing moment," and, like, and
mm.
I wanna know him, and I was like, "Hey, Bo." Again, I said your name, and you turn around and you go, "You know my name?" And I'm like, "Hi, I'm Brooke." I mean, but I don't I think I've ever told you, like, but that's I saw you standing there, and in my head, you were standing there
Wow.
going, "I did good. I did good, and I'm proud."
I think you nailed it, and you never told me that. I remember meeting you there, but you never told me that. What a great observation, because you actually read me correct. Is that I was alone for that time frame, and I stood up there for a second, and I just wasn't looking for anybody. I was
Yeah.
just literally reflecting
Yes.
on the blessings in my
In
life, and
awe.
I it's funny because I always wanted to be a consultant. I don't know if I ever told you this,
Mm.
but this is another thing that I've accomplished through dreams, is that no one would hire me. You know why? Because I failed out of college. Went back to college, failed out again. Went back to college for 3 years again, and I did very well, but I was growing so fast at finish line, marriage, and kids that I said I never wanted to graduate college anyways. That was something that somebody put on me. I never wanted to do that. So I decided to quit and just pursue things on my own. But at one point, I decided in my early 20s, I wanted to be a consultant. No one would hire me. So look at how the journey has come from I got to be a business owner and a consultant, which is just two of the biggest dreams I've had, and a father and a husband, and take care of my wife and provide. And that's why I said I could feel if I died today. I hope I don't, but if I did, I'm seriously can tell you this. I have lived so many of my dreams, and I feel like I've accomplished what I set out to in life already. And I think there'll be more. There will be, and through my kids. But I will tell you, man, what a great feeling. And it's such a good feeling that I'm like, there's more though. And I want people to achieve that and feel that, like my kids, like there's just something great about achieving dreams that you set out when there was very few people. I would tell my mom knew I was a dreamer and supported that, but I don't know how many more beyond that did. Maybe one teacher in school. So thank you for bringing that up, man. That makes me wow, what a good read. What a good memory for us to have. For real. That's important. I thank you for telling me that. Wow.
Oh, it was a very
Thank
cool
you.
moment for me too, because I got to experience from afar of someone I didn't know, just in
Mhm.
awe and in reflection of something. And I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna walk away and then I'm gonna come back. And then you seem like when I came back by, you were,
Ready.
but it was it was
Ready to
it
talk.
was very cool. Do what?
I was ready to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
now.
yeah.
You're like, and I'm a talker. So
Yeah.
you're like,
Oh,
if he's not
yeah.
ready to
You
talk,
are
let's
that.
let him not talk.
I love it. Like, where's the
Well,
timer?
I just want to thank you. Yeah, yesterday's call. I know what you're talking about with Daniel Austin. So I just want to thank you for coming on. Is there any advice that you would like to leave with somebody that maybe is in a past life that you were in the beginning of your career? Is there any advice you'd like to give your old self or somebody that might have been where you were before?
Um, the biggest thing, I think people need other people. I truly do. And
Oh yeah.
but I think you need the right people in your life. So I think, if you don't feel like you have those people in your life, search to find the people that will be part of your
Mm,
tribe, that will bring out the best in you. I didn't always have that. I didn't always have that. But once I found it and was like, "Oh, this is great. Can I have more of these? Can I have more of these
yes.
people?" So
Yes.
find your tribe and people that bring out the best in you. And that's who you need to spend your
Mm,
time with, because I promise you, they're going to, you know,
so
subconsciously,
good.
they're going to push you whether you know it or not, and you're gonna feel better about yourself. So, don't feel stuck if you don't have those people now. Like, they will gravitate for you. You can look for them. You go put yourself in rooms with them. Have a connect and
Yes.
those you're gonna have a
Yes.
connection with someone. We have a connection. Like, you bring me
Yes.
joy. You make me feel good about myself. Like, you're the person I wanna
Thank you.
be around and spend time with. And I know that you're authentic and you're real. And so find those
Thank you.
people. Find those people,
Wow.
because we need each
So
other.
true.
It's a tough world
We
out
do.
there.
We weren't made to be alone. We were made to, have relationships with each other and to grow together. Because if not, we would never get married. We would always be living alone and single, and we wouldn't hang out with people. You would just see people crossing paths, but never really together. So we were made for relationships, but also deep, meaningful relationships. I would give up hundreds of acquaintances to have a couple really
Absolutely.
deep one really deep relationship for somebody to know me, know who I am. And I appreciate you. You're a genuine person. I can not only speak for you on a personal level but professionally, and I also know that Jason, your husband, is a wonderful man. I really like him. He's one of my
I got lucky
favorites.
with him
And I
for
don't
sure.
say that
Like, "Thank you,
I
Lord
don't just
Jesus."
say that. Yes, he's a
He puts
stud.
up with
He's
me.
a man of men, and I really think both of you are top notch. And we attract who we are. We just do. We don't attract who we aren't. You were genuine. You attracted a nice, genuine man like him. So good for you. Good for him. Honestly, he did well too with you. So don't let's not just give him all the praise. He did well finding you. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you. You are such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. And I know that every listener out there is going to love this podcast. They're going to love you. If you are listening and you love this podcast, please do me a favor. Why don't you shoot Brooke an email, Brooke at craigwigginscoaching.com. Tell her how much you love her. Tell her how much it meant to you. I want you to encourage her, or on social media. I want you to share this podcast with your friends, family members, coworkers. It's for encouragement. I hope that you find encouragement in this podcast, Conviction of a Leader. Brooke, how can they find you and follow you? How can they connect with you?
Um, you can find me on Facebook, Brooke Brolo. You can find me on
Okay.
Instagram, B Brolo. B Brolo? Yes, B Brolo.
Yeah.
Um, but I would love if I spoke to you and you're like, "Ah, she's my people," then I'm probably your people too. So hit
Yes.
me up. I love meeting new people. I love helping people. I love collaborating. Nothing would make me happier, truly.
Good, good. Well, you made me very happy by coming on today, and I'm sure that this will be a very successful podcast, and those that are listening are going to love you.
Oh, thank you.
So, who doesn't love you? So, Brooke, thank you for coming on, and everybody, thank you for joining the Conviction of a Leader.